Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The vial shattered. It wasn't a loud sound, just the delicate, sickening crunch of glass inside the inner pocket of his tactical vest. But to Lysander, it sounded like a gunshot. The shock was immediate, followed by a wet, spreading coolness against his ribs that quickly turned sticky. He froze, his back pressed hard against the cold, rusted metal of the ventilation shaft, his breath hitching in his throat. Beside him, the air was thick with the scent of ozone, damp concrete, and the aggressive, biting pheromones of 3' alphas. The sensory blockers. His only shield. His only lie. Gone. We move in 30 seconds. Kalen's voice cut through the dark, low and vibrating with a command that made the very air feel heavy. Kalen Thorne, top prime of the academy, heir to the military conglomerate, and the man who had made Lysander's life a calculated hell for the last 3 years. Lysander swallowed, his throat dry as sandpaper. The inhibitor fluid was soaking into his uniform, evaporating. In 10 minutes, he wouldn't be Lieutenant Lysander Vance, the brilliant, beta-presenting strategist. He would be a beacon, target, an Omega in heat, trapped in a collapsed bunker with the most dangerous predators in the sector. The day had started as a routine final assessment. The Crucible, the Ethelgard Military Academy's notorious graduation simulation, was designed to break the weak. It dropped squads into the subterranean ruins of the old city, tasked with retrieving a data core while fighting off automated drones. It was meant to be a simulation of war, controlled and monitored. But the explosion that rocked Sector 4 wasn't part of the script. The ceiling had come down in a cascade of rebar and dust, sealing Squad Alpha 9 deep underground. The comms were dead. The emergency lights flickered with a dying, sickly yellow hum. "Report," Kalen barked, wiping a streak of oil and blood from his sharp cheekbone. He stood in the center of the cramped maintenance room they had retreated to, his presence filling the space. He was a wall of muscle and dominance, his pheromones smelling of crushed pine, cold steel, and something darker, like a storm before it breaks. "Exit routes blocked," muttered Varric, a hulking alpha with a scar bisecting his lip. He kicked a piece of debris. "We're dug in deep, Thorn. Oxygen scrubbers are running on emergency power. Maybe 6 hours of air left." "We don't need 6, Kalen said, his eyes scanning the room, landing on Lysander in the shadows. "Vance will find us a way out. Won't you, strategist?" Lysander didn't step into the light. He couldn't. The first wave of heat was curling in his gut, a distinct, terrifying cramp that felt like a hook pulling him downward. His hands trembled, and he clenched them into fists behind his back. "The schematics!" Lysander's voice wavered. He cleared his throat, forcing the steely, detached tone he was famous for. "The schematics suggest a drainage overflow valve 2 levels down. Connects to the subway tunnels. If we can override the pressure locks manually, we can bypass the cave-in." "Good," Kalen said, stepping closer. "Then we move. You're pale, Vance. You take point. If you pass out, I'm leaving you behind." "I'm fine," Lysander snapped, the irritability of the heat spiking his temper. "Just dust inhalation." "You better hope that's all it is," Varric sneered, looming over him. Varric's scent was heavy, burnt rubber and musk. It made Lysander's stomach turn. Betas are always the first to crack under pressure. They moved out, the squad of 4 navigating the twisted metal intestines of the facility. Every step was agony for Lysander. The fever was setting in fast, accelerating due to the stress and the residual adrenaline of the collapse. His skin felt too tight, sensitive to the friction of his combat fatigues. The scent of the alphas, usually muted by his blockers and their suppressants, was suddenly overwhelming. It was a cacophony of biological signals: aggression, dominance, territorialism. He needed to get away. If they smelled him. In this society, Omegas were precious, rare, and utterly stripped of autonomy. They were breeding stock, hidden away in gilded cages, not soldiers in the elite vanguard. If discovered, Lysander wouldn't just be expelled. He would be processed, handed over to the state for pairing. The years of training, the scars, the intellect he had honed to a razor's edge, all of it would be erased, replaced by his biology. They reached the pressure lock, a massive circular door rusted shut by decades of neglect. Varric, Jen, get on the wheel, Kalen ordered. Vance, hack the terminal. Lysander moved to the console, his fingers shaking as he pulled the interface cable from his wrist gauntlet. The screen blurred. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple, smelling distinctly, horrifyingly sweet, like honey and night-blooming jasmine. He froze. No. Not yet. He typed furiously, bypassing the encryption. It's rusted. The hydraulics are shot. We can force it, Kalen grunted, lending his shoulder to the wheel alongside the other two alphas. The sheer physical power radiating from them was intoxicating. Lysander's knees buckled. A soft, involuntary whimper escaped his throat. The sound was quiet, barely audible over the grinding metal, but Kalen heard it. The commander stopped pushing. He turned slowly, his eyes narrowing. Thorn, push, Varric shouted, straining. Stop, Kalen ordered. The silence that followed was suffocating. Kalen walked toward Lysander, his gait predatory. He stopped inches from the console, inhaling deeply. His pupils blew wide, swallowing the iris, the sign of an alpha reacting to a potent stimulus. Vance, Kalen said, his voice dropping an octave, becoming a rumble that vibrated in Lysander's chest. You're bleeding. I'm fine, Lysander gasped, backing away until his spine hit the cold wall. Just shrapnel. That's not blood, Kalen murmured. He stepped into Lysander's personal space, trapping him. He leaned down, his nose brushing the junction of Lysander's neck and shoulder. He inhaled the scent of the distress, the honey, the undeniable biology. Kalen pulled back, his expression a mask of shock and dawning horror. You insane little liar. Don't, Lysander whispered, his vision swimming. Please. What is it, Thorn? Varric called out, abandoning the wheel. Is he injured? Kalen spun around, his body physically blocking Lysander from the other's view. Back off, he roared. The command carried the full weight of a prime's authority, laced with a feral warning growl that made Jen and Varric stumble back instinctively. Thorn. Varric's eyes narrowed. He sniffed the air. The ventilation was poor, the scent moving slowly, but it was getting there. Wait, what is that smell? Get back to the upper level, Kalen ordered, his hands clenching into fists. Secure the perimeter. I'll handle the lock. That smells like sweet hell. Varric took a step forward, his eyes glazing over. Is there a civilian down here? An Omega. I gave you an order, Lieutenant. Kalen snarled, his hand dropping to the stun baton at his belt. I smell it too, Jen whispered, looking entranced. It's coming from him. The secret was out. The air in the corridor shifted instantly. The camaraderie of the squad evaporated, replaced by basic ancient instincts. 3 alphas. 1 unregistered Omega in heat. In a lawless, cut-off bunker. Lysander slid down the wall, his legs refusing to hold him. The heat hit him like a physical blow, a wave of desire and pain that blurred his rationality. He needed a nest. He needed a mate. He needed to run. Varric laughed. A low, ugly sound. Well, Vance, the Ice Queen. I always knew you were too pretty to be a beta. He took a step forward, ignoring Kalen. Move, Thorn. Finders keepers. That's the law of the dark, isn't it? Touch him and I'll kill you, Kalen said. He didn't shout. He stated it as a fact, calm and terrifying. He's in heat, Kalen, Varric argued, his rationality fraying under the potent pheromones flooding the tight space. He needs it. Look at him. He's suffering. I'm just going to help. He is my subordinate, Kalen said, drawing the baton. And he is under my protection. He's an illegal infiltrate, Varric roared, lunging. The fight was brutal and fast in the confined space. Varric was strong, fueled by lust and rage, but Kalen was a precision instrument of violence. Kalen sidestepped a haymaker, driving his knee into Varric's solar plexus, followed by a baton strike to the temple that crackled with electricity. Varric crumpled. Jian hesitated, looking between his fallen comrade and his commander. "Do you want to join him?" Kalen asked, his chest heaving, his eyes glowing gold in the dim light. Jian shook his head, terrified, and scrambled back up the corridor, dragging the unconscious Varric with him. Kalen stood panting for a moment, the adrenaline and pheromones warring inside him. He turned slowly to face Lysander. Lysander was curled in a ball, shivering violently. "Go away," he gasped. "Leave me." Kalen deactivated the baton and holstered it. He approached slowly, like one approaches a wounded animal. He knelt before Lysander. The smell was overwhelming now, intoxicatingly sweet, demanding a reaction. Kalen's jaw clenched tight enough to snap bone as he fought his own biology. "Why?" Kalen asked, his voice strained. "Why enter the academy? Why risk this?" "Because," Lysander choked out, clutching his stomach, tears burning his eyes. "Because I am better than just a broodmare. I am a strategist. I am." "You are dying," Kalen cut him off. "The heat, without suppressants or a mate in this stress, it can induce shock." "I'd rather die," Lysander hissed, trying to glare, though his eyes were hazy, "than be owned by you. By any of you." Kalen looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time. He didn't see the Omega he was socially conditioned to see. He saw the soldier who had outscored him in tactics 3 terms in a row. He saw the man who had dragged a wounded comrade 2 miles during the muddy torrents of the second-year training. "I don't want to own you, Vance," Kalen said softly. He reached out, hesitating, then placed a large, warm hand on Lysander's forehead. Lysander leaned into the touch instinctively, a whimper escaping him. The contact sent a jolt of pleasure through him that was nearly painful. "I'm going to get us out of here," Kalen promised. "But I need you to focus. Can you focus for me?" "It hurts," Lysander whispered. "I know." Kalen unbuttoned his tactical jacket. He wasn't stripping, he was creating a barrier. He wrapped the heavy, scent-laden fabric around Lysander. It smelled entirely of Kalen, pine and steel, and it masked Lysander's own scent while providing a false sense of being claimed, which soothed the frantic Omega instincts screaming in Lysander's brain. "Better?" Kalen asked. Lysander nodded, burying his nose in the collar of the jacket. The scent of the Alpha was grounding. It made him feel safe, a feeling he hadn't experienced in years. "The valve," Kalen said, standing up and pulling Lysander with him. "We have to open it together. I can't do it alone while holding the perimeter." They moved to the wheel. Lysander's body was heavy, his movements sluggish, but Kalen's presence was a tether. Kalen stood behind him, his chest pressed against Lysander's back, his arms reaching around to grip the wheel over Lysander's hands. It was an intimate, compromising position. Lysander could feel the hard ridge of Kalen's arousal against his lower back, a reminder of the danger he was in. But Kalen made no move to take what wasn't offered. He was a statue of restraint. "On 3, Kalen growled near his ear. 1, 2, 3. They pushed. Metal groaned. Sparks showered down on them. Lysander cried out as the effort strained his cramping muscles, but he didn't let go. Kalen roared, channeling his alpha strength, amplified by the protective instinct triggered by Lysander's state. With a deafening screech, the lock gave way. The door swung open. Cool, fresh air from the subway tunnels rushed in, carrying the scent of damp earth and freedom. They stumbled through, Kalen immediately slamming the mechanism shut behind them and jamming it with his baton to prevent Varric from following. They were safe. Relatively. Lysander slid down the tunnel wall, exhausted. The crisis of the escape had passed, and now the heat was returning with a vengeance. He looked up at Kalen, his eyes pleading, his body betraying him. Kalen, he whispered. It was the first time he had used the Alpha's first name. Kalen stood over him, looking tortured. The easiest thing in the world would be to give in, to bite, to claim. The law would even be on his side. An unclaimed Omega in the field was fair game. But Kalen Thorne was not a man who took the easy path. He sat down next to Lysander, maintaining a respectful distance, though he allowed Lysander to rest his head on his shoulder. I won't touch you, Kalen said, his voice rough. Not like this. Not when you can't say no. They'll know, Lysander murmured, his consciousness fading. Varric. He'll tell the board. Let him try, Kalen said, a dark promise in his tone. Varric assaulted a superior officer. His word against mine. And I am a thorn. I own the board. He looked down at Lysander, brushing a damp lock of hair from the Omega's forehead. You're the best strategist I've ever met, Lysander. I'm not letting them put you in a cage. Lysander looked up, searching Kalen's face for the lie. He found none. Just a fierce, burning intensity. Why? Lysander asked again. Because, Kalen admitted, looking away. I hated you because you were better than me, and I can't improve if my rival is busy warming someone's bed. You stay in the fight, Vance. You owe me that. Lysander let out a breathy laugh that turned into a groan of pain. He gripped Kalen's hand. Kalen squeezed back, hard. Help me, Lysander whispered. It hurts so much. I know, Kalen said. He shifted, pulling Lysander into his lap, wrapping his arms tight around him in a crushing bear hug. It wasn't sexual. It was grounding. Deep pressure therapy. I've got you. Ride it out. I'm right here. For the next 6 hours, in the darkness of the subway tunnel, the dynamic shifted irrevocably. The Alpha served the Omega, holding him through the fever, whispering tactical nonsense and logic puzzles to keep Lysander's mind from drowning in the heat. When the rescue team finally cut through the blast doors at the station entrance, they found Commander Thorne sitting against a pillar, his uniform disheveled, holding a sleeping Lieutenant Vance. Commander, the medic shouted. Is the lieutenant injured? Kalen looked up. His eyes were tired, but sharp as glass. He tightened his grip on Lysander, just for a second. Smoke inhalation, Kalen lied, smoothly and without hesitation. And exhaustion. He hacked the door manually. He saved the squad. The medic moved to check Lysander. Kalen stood up, lifting Lysander in his arms before the medic could touch him. I'll carry him, Kalen said. He doesn't like being handled by strangers. As he walked toward the light of the extraction transport, Lysander stirred against his chest. You lied, Lysander murmured, his face pressed into Kalen's neck. Strategic deception, Kalen corrected softly. Rest now, Lysander. The war is just beginning, and you're going to need your strength. Lysander closed his eyes. The heat was fading, suppressed by exhaustion, but a new feeling had taken root in his chest. A terrifying, thrilling realization. He wasn't just trapped with an Alpha anymore. He was allied with one. And God help anyone who tried to stand in their way now. And that is how the Iron Commander tamed the wolf. Not with force, but with a lie that saved his life. If you enjoyed seeing Kalen choose honor over instinct, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments. Would you trust a rival who discovered your deepest secret? Or would you expect them to betray you the moment it was convenient? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then,